Good afternoon. Hope everyone is enjoying the session so far, and I hope that the next hour that you spend with me would be very fruitful in terms of getting to know a little bit more in technology and how virtual labs may be able to help you moving forward. My name is Prince. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Business Development with CloudSwyft, and I hope that you're able to really draw more information over the next hour that we're together. So the video a while ago talked about, and if you're able to see the videos, it talked about a lot of different things that we do here at CloudSwyft. But for today, I'm going to focus on something that's very critical towards remote learning. Over the last 24 months, we've seen a lot of different changes in the ways that higher education institutions and corporate learning has been adapting and transitioning really the way that they're doing things in order to leverage more into technology, and so that they're able to bring the same, if not identical, experiences that they had, before the pandemic period. And we here at CloudSwyft has found that there's more than one way to actually deliver learning, especially in terms of hands-on components, and we incorporate something called our virtual hands-on labs in order to deliver real hello everyone in order to deliver real experiences, especially for students who are at home, and being safe. And so let me share my screen, and I've got a few slides. So I'll break this hour down into two segments. I'll talk to you a little bit about CloudSwyft, what we do, and what are some of the things that we've been implementing towards education. And then later on, I will take you on a live demonstration of the virtual hands-on labs. All right. Oh, a second here. Make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. There you go. Okay, and I hope everyone can actually see my slides. Give me a quick thumbs up or a quick chat on the board if you're able to see the screen for the PowerPoint. Thanks, Stella. Appreciate that. All right. So today we'll talk about virtual hands-on labs, or virtual labs for hands-on learning. I'll also share a few case studies and testimonials to really give you a feel of how this really works, especially not just in Malaysia, but across APAC and globally. So first, let's talk about what's the current challenge? Hardware needs. Over the last year or so, we've seen different groups try to really clamor and try to get their hardware requirements to deliver the needs of their employees, of their faculty members, students, and whatnot. Even down to the individuals finding it hard to really capture or be able to purchase an equipment, a laptop, a new one, in order to keep up with what he needs for learning, right? It became a really high demand just to be able to fulfill and transition into remote classes. And because of that, when the demand rises, then of course the supply really suffers. The prices also go up. And we're seeing upwards of, as you can see in this article in Insider, upwards of an additional $50 or even more. Here where I'm physically located, I'm based in Manila, we've seen laptops double in prices just because there's a huge demand for it. And for Malaysia, based on the details that we get from Statista, the average price of a laptop there is around $537. And this data is taken from just September of 2021. And that's a far cry from what the prices were from 3 years ago. The way that we're now looking into solving that concern is providing custom virtual labs and desk-based solutions. I'll talk about education as a use case for today. With custom virtual labs or desk spaces, we're now taking what is the requirement of the end user and enabling it into a virtual platform, or in this case, over the cloud. We can provide simple and engaging student experiences and launch different hardware requirements with a single click, available to them anytime, anywhere, as long as they've got straight connection and they've got a browser. They can use any type of devices and still be able to fulfill the need of their hands-on requirement. So if I'm a student and I only have, or rather what I currently have is a device that I've had for 5, 7, 10 years already, and I'm studying multimedia or design, engineering, architecture. These are classes and disciplines that require a lot of computing power, sometimes graphics accelerated power, in order for me to be able to deliver my exercises, my projects. And as a student, the availability or the function that I can launch a lab at any given time just by pulling up a browser and have the power that I need really comes very handy. Now, it's an end-to-end solution that is completely automated. There's no manual intervention that's needed by any of your IT teams, and students and faculty can get their labs up and running whenever they need them. A huge convenience, especially now that a lot of the resources, especially IT and MIS resources, are heavily tied towards delivering other requirements in a remote learning scenario or a remote learning environment. Through the use of our virtual labs and desk-based solutions as well, we can deliver campus lab softwares and tools on the go, and these are all heavily personalized. They can be accessed in different persistent lab environments that allows me to switch from my computer science lab over to my productivity lab, over to my engineering lab at any time that I want. What it also brings is that it provides significant cost savings. The problem when it comes to purchasing devices is that you need to put out a lot of cash or a lot of funding in order to be able to accommodate all of the users. Definitely, that's something that is a bit strapped already given the current situation. So if we're able to move your spending from a CapEx initial output perspective over to an operating expense model, then you're now prolonging the way that you're managing those funding. We reduce the spend on your hardware. We reduce the spend on maintenance because these virtual labs are fully hosted and available with a 99.5% upgrade coming from different cloud providers such as Microsoft, AWS, and so on. And we're able to give them anytime with how many number of users that you need them on the go. So if you have a class for this semester with 100 students, that's what we'll deliver. If that number doubles by the next semester, then we just increase and deliver and enable more labs. You're now only considering the number of students that you have for the class as opposed to pre-planning for an extended period of time. The high degree of customization that is allowed into these labs also gives you the flexibility and freedom to configure any applications and combine them as you need. So licenses, software, specs requirement can easily be configured and are very versatile to meet the demands of the current classes. The teachers and instructors and administrators also have various different controls and assessment capabilities that allows them to see exactly what's happening with the student access. On real time, we can also adjust the sizing. And this has happened quite a lot during the various different implementations that we've done this last semester. There were a couple of times wherein we needed to increase the sizes of student labs on the go because they realized that what they configured at the start of the class would work much faster if they increase the sizes and if they add better applications on what they need. So that kind of flexibility really helps remove challenges and barriers of learning for both students and instructors. So some of the key functionalities of this lab is that it allows you to configure and install any application and any software that you need. We're very proud to say that we have yet to encounter an application or a software that we're not able to virtualize. That may be open source, or it may be third-party license, or it may even be proprietary, such as, for example, if we're talking about aviation or defense courses and applications and software. We can enable these labs to still work with the current licenses and software already installed within the campus, then extend it out. So that means that for those students who are very much aligned with software needed for specific applications or hands-on requirement, we can still enable them regardless of where they're physically located. A few of the examples that we have here: engineering, business, multimedia, architecture, animation, design. Really, the whole spectrum of different disciplines can still be applied within our virtual labs. Now, a question that might come up: well, what if, for example, I'm in a location, or my students are in a location wherein they have low bandwidth? Well, we've kind of figured out that concern as well. We've enabled certain functionalities that allows them to connect directly to the cloud, to the machine, the virtual machine, via RDP, thereby minimizing, if not eliminating, that connection problem. As long as they still have the connection, we can mitigate the concerns in terms of bandwidth. And at the same time, knowing that we're operating and we built this platform in a location wherein we ourselves are very challenged when it comes to bandwidth and connection, we built it lean. So with that being said, we're very confident of the ability for the labs to connect and deliver and be usable for your end users, regardless of their location. We've also been able to create different types of operating systems and allows a wide range of different options when it comes to learning. So that's no longer a barrier as well. If my device at home is, let's say, a tablet or a netbook that only runs on Android, that's fine. I need a Windows machine. I can easily spin up a lab with either Windows, Linux, or even Mac OS if necessary. Instructors, administrators, or trainers would also have remote access to the student labs at any given time, thereby allowing your group or your class to still stay connected, regardless if whether they are working on labs asynchronously, students performing labs at any given time of the day, and instructors accessing them at a fixed time that allows them, or that's convenient for them. They can easily dive into their student's machine and get an assessment of their current progress. On top of that, there are other monitoring functionalities also available. Now, these virtual labs really intend to help instructors because you have the ability to create your own lab templates. You can easily add more applications. You can add more activities. You can use it for both synchronous and asynchronous learners or learning paths, thereby allowing you to really manage and make it interactive when it comes to remote learning or remote hands-on learning. These labs can also be seamlessly integrated to any existing learning management system. So we're not asking you to change whatever it is that you're already doing. In fact, we're looking to enhance it. Engage with us and tell us what kind of LMS that you're using. And we have different ways on how we can enable our virtual labs so that they work seamlessly together with the current programs and courses you already have available. So imagine if, for example, I'm running an architecture lab, right, or an architectural class, and I've got all of my plates and theoretical information already in my LMS with a single click of a launch lab function inside that LMS. I'm automatically taken in seamlessly to my lab, and I've got all of my architecture software already pre-installed and available, regardless of whatever machine I'm using or device that I'm using. I can launch ArchiCAD, I can launch AutoCAD, Autodesk, and different building management systems applications, all available inside my lab, my browser-based lab. And here's a few sample screenshots of really the lab working in action. This was taken just a few weeks ago when we were conducting a class with a few students. So as you can see, we're able to render different Android simulation here for mobile development. We have a data analytics platform, or Power BI, on the lower right-hand side. And I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but on that side, you'd be able to see all of the students actually joining in that class, performing the lab as they go in their own pacing. And the instructor is showing his screen to be able to show or to instruct his students what they need to do on their physical machines, or sorry, on their virtual machines and individual labs. The next slide just gives you a little bit of an idea on what kind of applications we've been able to run. And it's quite a wide list, and it is growing. So there's various different categories per discipline. So we've got computer science and software development in green. Quite a good number of applications there, from MongoDB, SonicCube, Java Eclipse, Red Hat, Linux, RStudio, and others. We have engineering, SolidWorks, MATLAB, packet tracers, Wireshark, architecture. We've got SketchUp, ZBrush, Blender, arts and design. We've got the full range of different 2D and 3D applications, all of them requiring graphics card or GPUs. And imagine being able to use a light tablet, but still be able to run Revit or Unreal Engine. And all you got is a $200 Chromebook in order to make that happen. That still is possible using our labs. And of course, we've got business. We can run SAP, Lumina, Tableau, and of course, the entire range of the Microsoft platform. We've been able to do all of this. And the next couple of slides, it's a wall of text. I'm going to give you that heads up. I'm more than happy to share with you all of these case studies later on. And so I'll just talk through them and give you the highlights. So the logos that you're seeing right now are the various different organizations, companies, and higher education institutions that are now currently incorporating CloudSwyft Virtual Hands-on Labs into their day-to-day learning. And there's a wide range of different applications right there. So we've got different schools across Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, in Vienna, in China, in Hong Kong, and of course in the Philippines. We have various different training institutes such as NTUC Learning Hub, FutureLearn, UTEL, and we also have a few government agencies that are now also incorporating the use of hands-on labs in order to train their remote learners. So it's really a matter of bridging the gap when it comes to accessibility and the concern that can my end users run the applications or the software that I need in order for them to learn properly. Through the use of our hands-on lab, that concern goes away. Few of these screenshots, and again, these are wall of text. I'll talk through most of them. We have the Bangko Sentral, or the Central Bank of the Philippines, currently running their 7th class already on Power BI, all of them learning this remotely and accessing our labs on an extensive 4-day program per group that allows them to learn all of the applications with a virtual instructor also coming from our group, and they're then applying themselves on those virtual labs. Emerson Philippines, Emerson being a multinational company located across the world, and I believe they also have a Malaysia office, currently using our course content and virtual hands-on lab to create their own internal in-house learning program. So we built a laddered program that incorporates different course content together with virtual hands-on labs in a self-paced learning program that yields them certificates at the end of the program. Each segment gains them a certificate towards a completion program. And so far, this is our 3rd year running, implementing this for Emerson. We have trained roughly around 400 employees already in various different levels of business data analytics and data science. And it may be something that you would want to look into as well for your group. Hitachi, another multinational company, looking at or has delivered specific certification programs, Microsoft certification programs, taking both content and hands-on labs, leading towards exams, and a good number of those are already certified individuals or certified professionals. This leads towards the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 certification, and they use our virtual hands-on labs as a way for them to apply different levels and exercises before taking the exams. One of the largest implementation that we have in APAC to date is a university in Indonesia called Venus University. So a little bit of a tidbit here for Venus University. We actually started engaging with them even before the pandemic. They were already keen on transitioning to fully virtual labs and are looking at different ways on how they can do that. When we started engaging them as CloudSwyft, we showed them the ease of use and being able to use their current resources and transfer that and fully digitize their labs. And now we have roughly around 12,500 lab implementations across 7,000 students, all taking different levels of labs and incorporated with their day-to-day activities. within Malaysia, and I'm not sure if we have an audience coming from Unitard, and if we do, I'm happy to present your use case here. So we started work with Unitard about 2 years ago, and we are proud to say that we now have about close to 2,000 students that have taken various different levels of course content and labs with us as well. Across different courses, we've got anything from data science, AI, cybersecurity, DevOps, and those are currently being incorporated in their day-to-day classes and into their syllabus for the semester, learning various different tools via the lab integrations on our lab environment, such as Jupyter Notebook, Python, Azure Lab Console, AI machine learning tools, database, SQL databases, IoT, DevOps. Even right now, we're looking at at incorporating physical devices for IoT together with our virtual hands-on labs. Southville for K-12 here in the Philippines have started to go for artificial intelligence as early as senior high. They're now looking at AI fundamentals. And we encourage, for those of you who are in the education space attending this event, that we encourage that we start them young. We have the content to support and the hands-on lab to apply themselves, and we remove the hardware concerns and even the software and applications installation concerns, because when we deliver them in the labs platform, it's already well put together, and your students are well on their way into learning about AI and about data sciences. A full implementation of our platform is given to a state university, and another one more recent with San Beda College Alabang, another school in the Philippines, wherein we fully virtualized their computer science lab. 500 students running this application, running this semester, together with their capstone project, all held within virtual labs. One of the most recent wins that we have on our belt, and also as a case study, is there's a school network in the Philippines, roughly around 6 schools. It's called STI Philippines. There's 60 different campuses spread across the different islands of the Philippines. And for this implementation, we're looking at around 11,300 students that will be taking anything from Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, Visual Studio, .NET Desktop, Unity, Maya, and so on. And here's the kicker. This school primarily services students that are whose hardware capacity, 50% of them, 60% of them are actually running on mobile devices. So imagine the possibility that now you can run Autodesk or Adobe Photoshop using a 7-inch or 6-inch mobile phone. That in itself is very useful and very much a convenience for those end users, because now they don't really need to invest another $600, $700 or ask from their parents to fund their hardware requirement in order for them to learn the courses and the applications. And that's what we're doing now. As a showcase, this just jumps back into Venus University a while ago, because we already have that case study. Microsoft wrote this very nice showcase of the full digitalization of their labs, now currently available, and there's a link to the article right there if you want to learn more about it. And of course, we're happy to tell you about their user journey and their experiences as well, if you'd like. Now, the next slide would be our live demo. So I'm just taking a look at, and hey, thanks Mohammed for the thumbs up. Does anyone have any questions before I transition over to the live demonstration? Going once, twice. All right, we'll go to the lab then. All right, here you have it. So just before the class, or just before this session, I was able to provision myself for a GPU lab, and I'm able to do all of that just within the entire platform right here. In fact, when I click, the moment that I click, I'm landing on the lab session. But let me talk to you about the items on the left-hand side first. So I've got 2 different lab environments set up right there. I managed to squeeze in to change the backdrop of the sample student lab into OpenLearning. And really the intention here is that the administrator or the faculty member will no longer need to code anything or to have any difficulty when it comes to creating brand new lab components. I can easily do that using my dashboard, or rather using my console. Here under my dashboard, I'm able to monitor and see all of the consumptions of my students. So as you can see here, I've got quite a different range. And if I click on that sample student lab, I can click view lab consumption. And I've got two users here. I've got a student access and a demo admin. That's the one that we're using now. I'm able to see the consumed lab hours, and it just gives you a visual dial that tells you how many is left. Now, if, for example, you've got 1,000 students under this roster, just go ahead and click the Excel download, and you'll be able to get a nice report that tells you exactly how many hours are still left for your end user. Now, take note, I'm talking about lab hours. Another way that we make this very cost efficient and extremely manageable for different higher education institutions is that we provision labs based on to the hour of the student need. So what does that mean? Most schools operate with a couple of specific variables. So there's an allocated number of lab hours that students would need to go through in a semester. Usually that's anywhere from between 60 to 100 lab hours. And that would be valid for about 4 to 5 months, depending on the space or the time of that of that semester for the year. So I can allocate 4 months access with 100 lab hours for one individual student, and that's exactly what he will have access to. There are no overcharges. So for those of you who are concerned that, hey, this is the cloud, I might run up my cost a little bit higher than what I am expecting, in that manner, all of that is avoided through the use of our specific controls. The very first one being is that you can assign specific resources and lab hours to individuals, and you've got granular control of that as well. If I suddenly have a need to add more hours to a student, all I need to do would be to go to my lab profiles. From there, identify the student lab that I want to get to. Hover to grant lab access. And I've got an autofill right there, so let me just remove that. Okay, sorry, that's an error on my browser, not on the lab. Okay, there you go. So I've got total lab hours 20, and I don't have any remaining yet. Okay. So what do? I go to my course lab hours as an by the way, I'm accessing this as an administrator. You can give controls for that. And I can click course lab hours. I locate the lab that I want to add more hours to right here. Okay. So notice that adding lab hours is currently grayed out, but I can add more users. Click save. Okay, and now I still have a total remaining lab hours, and now I can provision into another one. Now notice that it says here provisioned. Okay, that means that I'm already using this lab hours, and I'm actually using them up. Once I've consumed all of them, I can now I can add more to this. So you cannot, or rather, this is another control that we set so that you're not randomly adding more hours to a user unexpectedly, or to prevent errors. If you've already granted a set amount of time until that time is run out, then that user will be added or topped up more hours later on. At the same time, I have another list of all of the available users. If I want to grant another user here, let's say, for example, I want to add more user to this admin CS executive account, then I can just click on that name and I can provision and save. And as you can see, 10 hours is dropped. Click save, and I will be provisioning more to that user. That out. All right, under lab profiles as well, as you can see, I've got quite a few right here. Some of these functionalities. I can view the content of this sample lab. So this is the type of lab in there, the description, what are the lab activities right there, and what kind of template I'm using. But what if, for example, I want to make some changes? I can easily click edit. Say, for example, I can choose a different file here. I can choose a different image. Click next. If I want to change that machine, from a Windows machine, if I want to change it into a Linux operating system, I can do that. I can also use baseline machines that has no information apart from just the OS right there. If that's part of my activity, I can do that. I can use different containers, different consoles. I can also launch and turn it into a Mac OS if I would want to. On the right-hand side would be the various different templates. So a template is like an image. It allows me to automatically replicate different applications readily available, and that minimizes the need for me to install software for every individual student. So think back into the work that your IT team has to do in order to install an application. If you've got physical hardware, they need to install software to each individual unit. And if you have 1,000 labs, 1,000 lab units or workstation, that's going to eat quite a bit of time. Here, all you need to do would be to select a lab template, right? And then click next. If, for example, if I want to do an Adobe application, sorry, Adobe template, if I want to do a base Windows, or if I want to use any of the existing lab templates that already have pre-configured applications and software and activities, I can do that right here. Click next. And now I can also move, and it's as simple as a drag and drop in terms of creating various different exercises. The lab activities allows you to build up a repository of different exercises, assessments, activities, projects. And then now, as you continuously use the labs platform, you're building up a bank that allows future educators and learners to reuse what the other experts and subject matter, the consultants and subject matter experts are putting in for content. So here I can click on view, and there's all of my activities right there. So that one is a wall of text, but you can add different videos, images, links, different types of tools and functionalities. All of them will be available onto the lab, right? Once I'm happy with that, I click next, and then all of that will be saved. And the moment that I click save, it will automatically update this lab profile. So I'm not going to do that because I want to show this to you bare first. I click close on that one. I'm going to skip the lab section, move to the lab activity so that we are closing the loop first on what it looks like as an admin. So as I mentioned, you can easily create a lab activity. And from there, it's a simple editor. You can even extract information directly coming from sources on the web, such as from GitHub or different types of repositories, and put them in here and it will be available. User management allows you to do exactly that. Take a look at the number of users that you have on your system. And you can have different ways on how it's been created. As you can see here, a lot of them are created by our own internal team. This is a demo site. However, if we do single sign-on and if we do different kinds of Active Directory integrations, then if they're coming from your LMS, it will be automatically created within the system as well, within the Labs platform. So they will be provided their own account as soon as they log in from your LMS. Now let me jump into the lab session. I'm going to skip configuration for now, just for the purpose of time. And here you see that I have two different lab sessions. Now, this is what's been granted to me as a user now. I created this prior to jumping into this call. But if, for example, I need a very specific lab, then I can request as a student, I can request a lab provision. I can select the course and I would see all of the different labs that I have there. So let's say, for example, if I need to be able to have a course, a lab on AI, and say that need this lab for my next course, right? Click send request. It will be sent to the administrator. Now the administrator will get an alert that this specific user is requesting for a lab, and now I can provision a lab for that user. Exactly what I did a while ago. Now, notice a couple of things here. I can immediately launch. So they're both green, but this one says launch. This other one says start, and I have an hour here because that's all that I provisioned for before this lab or before this segment. If I want to connect via remote desktop, Let's say, for example, my bandwidth is low. All I need to do would be to launch a remote desktop or an RDP function. Most Windows devices have them. If you're using a Mac or an Android device, you just need to download an application for it. And all of the information are automatically included here, such as the username, password, and whatnot. What that does is that it connects you directly to the virtual machine, thereby minimizing any bandwidth push that is needed and also helping on the connection concerns. But in this case, I have 3 hours and 48 remaining, and I will be launching my lab the regular way. All right, now we have our lab up and running. This is what you would see as an end user. And if you notice that this is my browser, right? My local machine is right here below. Everything that I need is already pre-installed into this lab, and it's even launching its own teams inside. So while that is going, I just glance upon the Q&A, and there's a question that's raised by Mr. Balasandar. Let me address that question first. In the meantime, I'm also going to click on an application right here. All right, so the question is, do you provide any type of training or support for educators who want to set up this virtual lab in their existing course? Yes, definitely. We will handhold you the entire process. Not only will we do the onboarding for instructors, we will also be doing onboarding for users onboarding for the users and for the students so that they are familiar into how to use the system. And that's something that we've been providing as a service as well. And I hope that answers that question. The next question is, aside from conducting classes, can instructor hold exams and assessment inside the simulated lab environment? Definitely. Another use case that we have just recently is that capstone projects were held inside the lab. And so that's what they were doing and how they were able to utilize the lab scenarios, because they're given a set of different activities to complete and a time frame for them to complete them live. All of that was delivered and assessed just within the day. And that's just one use case. We've got quite a few more. We have a question, another one from Stella. Is there any engagement between the lab and the learner journey on the course? Can learners share their work on progress of the course? Yes, they can. So on top of the current labs scenario, for example, another use case that we have is that they use open broadcast software so that during the lab exercise, they're actually sharing that information over a streaming component. At the same time, there was an LMS. There's an LMS. They're using a third-party LMS that they have tied in with that school's lab. And what they were doing is they're sharing their progress and output on a discussion forum and thread that makes it as an engaging component. All right. Okay. And I hope that answers most of those questions. Please feel free to raise follow-up questions if you have any based on my responses. Now, let me go back into my demo. On the left-hand side, you would see that I'm running an application called Krita. This is a photo editing application that is open source. It is equivalent or comparable to Photoshop in most cases. And here I'm using it to work on a file, right? And because this is a virtual machine and it's not just an application that you're running, you've got full range of capability inside this lab. So here again, to show you that distinction, this is my local device and this is the virtual lab. And I just put that on full screen. I can click on my VM and look at about. And it gives you information about this particular lab lab machine. So I've got 8 gig RAM installed in here, running on a 2.6 gigahertz processor. And later on, I'll be able to show you that I'll switch from device to device and it would still be the same capacity. And that's really what we're offering as that component. You no longer have to worry about, can my computer run this application? No, all you need is a browser. It doesn't matter whatever device you're using. And I'm also running it on a Windows 10 Pro. Another key feature here is that because this is fully managed on the cloud, any type of software any type of software update or any type of maintenance that needs to happen on applications all happens on the background. So that is fully automated as well from our team, and also from in this case Azure, because this is running on Microsoft currently. Now, on that question, if in case, what if, for example, you're not using Microsoft Azure? Well, we've got a couple of different ways there. If you're currently using AWS, we can also implement in AWS. If you are already subscribed to Azure, we can deploy the platform on your Azure tenant or your Azure subscription, and we can help manage that along with you so that you've got full visibility of your spend, right? And that gives you the total control of the functionality and of the services available to the platform. If at the end of it, you really don't want to bother with all of that and you just want to be able to tell CloudSwyft, take care of everything. We just need to be able to really deliver this, and we'll wrap it up and put it together in one SaaS-based model. Yes, we can. So CloudSwyft as well can deliver the entire solution end-to-end for you. So here's a nice question from Mr. Attica. How does one incorporate virtual lab on OpenLearning course? So in fact, that's a really good question and segues me to my next item. We do have available courses on the OpenLearning roster of offerings, and you can look for CloudSwyft content there. I believe we have a total of 3 courses now that has both learning content, labs, and culminates to a certificate as well by the time that you complete all of the requirements of the course. Now, if we're looking at, oh, thank you. And if you're looking at being able to incorporate labs to other courses, well, we can certainly have that conversation again, because we build labs and that's really our core business as CloudSwyft. So if you've got an existing, or if you are a course owner within OpenLearning, I'm very sure that the OpenLearning team and CloudSwyft, us as well, would be very happy to engage you in a conversation about enabling custom virtual labs for your courses. Now, my limit of knowledge on how to use this tool is the same as Paint. So pardon me on that. But if, for example, I want to be able to use that, well, then let me make some squiggly lines right there and I can make full use of this. And I've got full capacity to run this application. Now, the thing that I would want to show you in between is I'm currently running this on a desktop. Now, what if, for example, on a laptop? What if, for example, I'm a student that cannot afford to buy a laptop? What if, for example, all I have is a tablet? So I have a nice little tablet right here, or rather a Chromebook. Running a very paltry, because this is quite old. I believe this is just a 2 gig RAM unit. I've had, well, this is what my daughter uses. But if, for example, I want to go to my lab, let me put this down for a second and access my labs right here. So something interesting would happen actually. So I'm currently logged into my lab on my laptop. If I switch my device, so let me see, let me make sure that you guys are actually able to see that. So here is my, oh, I think I need to turn off my background. Let me stop sharing for a second. There you go. Okay. So here I have again my, oh, it's still blurred. Okay, I think that's with Zoom. Just remove the background. So there's my background. And here you have my tablet. And we get to my lab session. right? You can see it's exactly the same view that I was looking at a while ago. And if I click launch, so I'm now transitioning from my machine on my laptop now closes that lab, and I'm now able to get that lab running here. And of course, this would still work much better with a keyboard, at least an OTG keyboard and mouse, but now I can run different applications and have the same functionality in my tablet. Right? Hold on. That's what happens when you have fat fingers. There you go. Let me select the brush right here. Okay, and that's how it looks like from a tablet view. Ordinarily, I'm not able to run this application on this kind of device, but that's just to give you an idea that this is one way that you can now fully utilize the lab. And imagine it from this perspective. If you're looking at using, and let me go back, there you go. I'll just need to refresh that again. If you're using a lab as a, or rather, if you need the computing capacity or the GPU capacity only at certain times within a class, then that means that you can switch between your regular device, and whenever you would need the lab, just launch it. So even on your day-to-day, not just from a learning component or from a labs component, but even from a day-to-day application, if you're finding that it's too expensive to equip your team members with devices that will age within 3 to 5 years, maybe you can consider looking at a lower spec machine for day-to-day productivity. Like for example, in myself, I use my lab for presentations and for some computing work, maybe at best 2 to 3 hours in a day. And the rest of my day is already in creating different productivity responses, such as emails and PowerPoints and whatnot. That may be the case for most professors and instructors. It may also be the case for some different tiers of operations, right? Let's say, for example, data analysts or animators. They may be working on a project for 5-6 hours in a day, but the rest of the time they would be responding to day-to-day activities. With that being said, you can immediately have and launch an environment. In this case, that will be a desk space instead of a lab. And whenever they need the GPU or whenever they need higher compute capacity, they do it on the browser. They will have the power whenever that they need it. Once they're done with their activity, they can then shift back to their local devices and continue on. It's a reorientation of the way that you're working, but at the same time, it's not a big change. You're just moving from your local to a virtual machine whenever you would need it. And ultimately, that yields into effective savings for the company or for the school as well. In fact, one of the use case that we are exploring here in the Philippines is working with the Ministry of Higher Education to do exactly that. Since most of the audiences that they have in the Philippines are really challenged when it comes to hardware components, instead, what they'll do is they will just provide lab instances or desk-based instances for those users. They will do their content and create their material. And from there, once they're done, they can then go on and blast it out and go on with their day. They spend 2 to 3 hours working on new content, and that's all that they pay for. Albeit they invested on a lower tiered machine that is more towards supporting the need. Now, let me check the Q&A again. Okay, the courses that are featured, we've got a question from Mr. Attica. The courses that are featured on OpenLearning are all paid courses. Do you plan to have any free ones in the future for those who are interested to get to know how it looks like on OpenLearning? So that is something that we are in discussion of. And once we have those courses available as a program, then we certainly will inform all of our all of our audiences for the day. And I'm sure that the marketing team of OpenLearning would be very keen on sending out information about what's available as open courses or as free courses. With that being said, perhaps we can also raise the question, what kind of content are you interested in taking a look at? So maybe that's something that would be a good note to take in terms of free courses. Okay, so we've got another question. What makes CloudSwyft Virtual Lab solutions different from the other providers? To date, as far as we know, in terms of a full environment, CloudSwyft is one of the only actual providers of a fully immersed and fully available virtual lab that is highly customized and available. So what we're known for is the ability to custom tailor labs for every institution down to a per class level. And that's what makes us different. You're not given a box that you have to fit, but rather we can enable different software to configure down to the class level or down to the department level of a school or of a company. Next, what is the estimated costing to use the virtual labs? There's only two components really for a lab. For custom labs, we are only looking at a subscription and cloud cost. And we're happy to engage you in terms of how that would look like in terms of volume and in terms of individual lab implementations. Our team will be happy to respond to those inquiries and to those pricing requirements. Safe to say is that our pricing is very friendly to education. And so we're really at a point of making this platform and the solution available to every learner. Now, I'll go ahead and stop my screen share and transition back to my slides for our next steps. Now here you would have seen that we have a poll. So we have that already up on the screen. Please feel free to respond to that if you'd like to know more. And if you're interested in a free proof of concept to try this out for your organization, for your institution, we also have another way for you to do that. You can get a free POC. Our team here can send the link into the chat. And this is just a very quick form to fill up. Or you can also send us a note. You can get in touch with me directly. My email is prince@cloudswift.com. Or you can also email us at sales@cloudswift.com. So we've got about 4 minutes left to the hour. And I just want to make sure if there are any other questions still left. Okay, we just have one coming in from Mr. Balasandar again. I would love to see how each application looks like after successful integration in third-party platform. Can we drag apps like widgets inside the course page after integration? That can make things so easy. So like what I showed you a while ago, some of the functionalities into the lab are drag and drop, and they're actually just point and click items inside for you to create new lab templates. Once you're inside the virtual machine, it functions exactly the same as any other Windows machine or Linux machine or Mac machine, depending on what you need. So all of the functionalities are still in place. You can run widgets, you can do notes, any other types of third-party installation. You can also restrict them. So for example, if you want to ensure that your users are not able to run certain applications inside the lab, you can also do that. We can deactivate certain functions inside the VM, such as, for example, if they cannot install, if they cannot access any applications, we can manage that inside the virtual machine. Hope that answers the question. Any others? All right. Also, if you're interested to get a copy of the slides that we have now, I believe we will make them available on the resources, but at the same time, also feel free to send us a note. You can fill up the link. We'll include the slides in there for you, and we're happy to engage with you and learn more about your interest. And let's just get on a discovery discussion. Certainly would be very good to have a bit of an alignment first and see if whether the custom labs is something that would be a good fit. So another follow-up question. We have from Mr. Belasander, beside IT courses, do you have any other examples for medical labs, etc.? That is something that we're actually exploring right now. So there are some applications, especially some VR applications that are towards the medical field, and we are in exploration of them. And once those are readily available, we're happy to publish them. If you are in the medical field, we're happy to engage and see if we can run any type of pilot or proof of concept, especially for medical labs. So that's something that we can explore a little bit further and just see if the labs, the medical labs would be a good viability for your group. Other than that, we have, like I said, design, animation, multimedia, game development. We've got business labs application, accounting and finance applications, and those are a few of the ones of the disciplines that we already implemented. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much, guys. You've been a great crowd. Very happy to be answering those questions. They were very, very good questions to begin with. And I hope that for our viewers tuning in on the live, if you are interested to know more, I still have our contact information up and running here. You can immediately send us an email. We're happy to engage. Other than that, that is the close of my session for today. And we hope to be speaking with you soon. Thanks and take care.